Hi everyone, bonjour, my name is Sasha. Thank you so much for joining the 12 Days of Yoga Challenge. It's just a fun way to celebrate our bodies, the holidays, and being alive. So I would like to start with props and modifications so that whether or not you take class with me, when you're at home and you're practicing yoga, if you're studying with a teacher or just doing it on your own, you have some really nice baseline fundamental tools for you to utilize. And it requires stuff that you might already have at home, whether or not you have yoga props. So 2 blocks, I love these cork blocks. They're nice and steady. Even just 1 block, you can use dictionaries, books, anything that can stack upright and be a stable base. The other is a strap, or a scarf, or a belt, a piece of clothing, a tote bag, a blanket, whatever. Just something that is pretty long that you can use to create extra space and length, and even stability. Another is a blanket, ideally 2 really nicely folded blankets. And if you ever sit on the blanket, I encourage you to sit on the creased edge. It's very nice and smooth, and it's a stable base. And then lastly, this is kind of a luxury, but if you have something that looks like this, it's a bolster, you can use pillows, especially if they're nice and steady. You'll see it's not very squishy, but it is softer than blocks. So those are the most important things. Lastly, everyone probably has a chair. It might not look like this, but it is really useful, especially when you can't touch the floor. So any type of chair, even a table, a desk, you can even use the wall. The wall is actually a great prop. And if you don't really have any props, you can just use your own body parts, and I'll show you that a little bit later. So here are some modifications that come to mind personally whenever I am in a yoga class and I see students, or I myself am in a class and I need to modify. So if you feel like you are not flexible enough to do yoga, I beg to differ. It doesn't matter if you're flexible or not. We do asana practices and postures to create both stability and flexibility, so it will come. But in the meantime, if you feel like you can't touch your toes, then guess what? Blocks are an extension of your arms, or the chair. So if you're feeling really stiff, especially if you're pregnant, or if you're on your cycle and you're not doing really deep forward bends, that means bending at the top of the thigh, and we'll do that a little bit later. You can literally put your hands on the chair, or even put your head on the chair. And this is actually really restorative. The feet can be wide, they can be narrow, but it's really pleasant to use that as a prop. You can also, like I said, use the blocks. So if you can't touch your toes, you can bring them a little bit wider and in front of you. That's a little too wide for me. And drop the head down so that they're an extension of the arms. The same goes for things like stepping back. So this is great also if you're pregnant. You can do it a little bit wider, but you can have your hands on blocks. If stepping back for you is too much in one swoop, you can do several. So you can do step, step, step. That's a nice modification. And the same with coming forward. So step, step, step. However many steps you want to take. The other I wanted to go over was from downward facing dog. Often teachers will tell you to lift one leg up and then step forward. So it looks kind of like this. They'll also sometimes say to open the hip, which is really nice in down dog. So this is a lifted parallel leg, or ekapada, one leg. And then when you open the hip, often what can happen is this bottom knee kind of turns inward and you get all awkward in the arms. So I encourage you to stay really steady in the arms in this bottom leg, so that when the top hip opens, nothing really changes. It's just an opening of the pelvis and an external rotation in the bottom leg. And then from there, that top knee can bend so you don't drop into this arm. You're pushing into the floor. And then when you come forward, if you can't step all the way forward, what you can do from this lifted leg is take a few steps. Or you can even use your arm, the same hand as the leg, and kind of haul that foot forward, okay? So same with the back leg when you come forward. So those are some modifications that come to mind initially. And the same goes for things like back bending. For example, we'll do this a little bit later. If you're on your shins and you can't touch your toes, you use the blocks as an extension of the arms when you do back bending, such as camel pose. And that helps also create space in the spine. When you do things like forward bending, if you're seated and you're rolling your spine, and it's like when you straighten your legs, you're rolling your spine, all you have to do is sit on something. You can sit on a block, a bolster, or a blanket, and then it helps to elevate the spine. Even if you're seated on several props, just make sure that it's steady and you're seated right on top of it so that you can really extend the legs. And if you're here and you can't touch your toes, that's what the strap is for. So you can literally just unwind it and kind of hook it on the balls of the feet like the reins on a horse, and pull with either side of the hands as you, or either side of the strap with the hands as you push into the strap with the feet. And then that creates nice traction for you to elevate the spine here. And even when you're forward bending here, if you can't touch the toes, you just use this, the strap, okay? So that was it for now, I think. Same as when you go forward. If you can't go forward all the way, that wasn't it for now, in fact. You can use props underneath the head. You could even use the chair here and put your head up against a chair. So those are some things for the meantime. I hope that was helpful. And of course, there are so many other various modifications depending on what you personally are going through. I'll give you one more thing. If you are finding that you have issues with your knees, for example, in child's pose, you can put a prop underneath your butt on top of your heels so that when you walk forward, your butt is on something and you're not lifted, because this is a really passive moment for the pelvis. And if your head doesn't touch the floor, you can use a block or the bolster. Okay? So I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, please let me know. I hope that you can take these tools with you into your practice, whether you're doing yoga asana or any type of other movement, and just start to be a little bit more aware of your body and its needs. So I'll see you for the next video. Thanks for being here. Namaste.